Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for the Q&As, so let's go ahead and get this started. Alright, first question. Hey Jason, what would be your best advice for helping me achieve a 100 kilogram bench press? I've been lifting for nearly 2 years, 180 kilogram squat, 225 deadlifts, and my bench is my weakest element. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Alright brother, this one is actually going to be simpler than you would expect. Okay, a lot of novice programs, and this is one of the changes I made to my novice program because this is one of the faults of starting strength and possibly one of the faults of even strong lifts. There isn't enough pressing volume relative to the amount of oftentimes lower body work. Because if you're coming in and you're doing, let's say 5 sets of squats every workout, right? It's 15 sets, and then you're deadlifting every other session. That's a lot of squat volume and deadlift volume in terms of just work on the legs. And then you end up pressing with slightly less volume. And in my experience, again, what you guys have seen even with what I'm doing lately and previous experience, bench press seems to respond better to a little higher volume than, say, squats do. I just feel like the volume is entirely too low on a lot of the novice programs, specifically for pressing strength. And I'd like to see more of it. So what I would recommend to you, step back and assess what you're doing with the amount of bench press volume and even overhead press volume you're doing. And you need to add more volume in. You need more workload. And you probably need to up your calories because you're clearly training hard enough. I mean, if you've reached, again, that's pretty much a 4-plate aside squat and a 5-plate aside deadlift. Hair over, actually, depending on if you're going kilos or pounds there, as far as the deadlift goes. So you've put in the time and your bench is lagging. You just need more pressing volume, and you need to up your food intake. You need to increase your carbohydrate intake, most likely. Add a couple hundred more calories a day, increase your bench volume, and I think you'll push right on up to 100 kilograms. That's how I would do it. All right, next question. I am struggling immensely with recovery, and if I push adding weight each training session or every second training session, I seem to experience prolonged fatigue the next few days. How effective would it be to progress on the weight each week by 5 pounds? This is also including the fact that I tried eating more, sleeping more with no success. Some things you need to remember here in terms of everything else. I'm aware of this individual, and he is not completely in the normal demographic in terms of his size and everything. What I'm going to say here is that due to relative structure, size, relative body weight, things like that, just like I would never increase women's weights by 5 pounds a session, I wouldn't necessarily do that for you either. You're in a different situation as far as novice programs go. I would recommend doing smaller jumps, right? Micro plates are your friend, 2.5 pound jumps. Go get you some 1/2 pound plates and do 1 pound jumps if you need to. And if that means even doing them once a week for now, then do them once a week instead of every session. All right, give yourself time to recover and adapt. You're still going to get to your goals by doing micro loading. And that's what people need to remember. Not everyone, due to their life situation and their total life circumstances, can follow a full aggressive novice linear progression type program. At least in the sense of the weight jumps on the bar. There are going to be a lot of people who need slower progression. They can still do linear progression. They're just going to need to slow it down a bit. And in the case of this individual and any of you who might be struggling with that, smaller jumps, 2.5 pound jumps. And again, like I said, even smaller microplates. Bring your own microplates to the gym if you don't have a home gym. Go buy some. You can get them online. Rogue sells them. Amazon sells them. Get some microplates. And if you have to, do 1 pound jumps. Because even a 1 pound jump done every single week is 52 pounds in a year. Right? That's substantial. You have to look at it that way. Even slower linear progression is still linear progression at the end of the day. All right, next question. I know you've covered this before in one of your videos. How do you feel about pen presses? Do you believe they will help a person get past a sticking point, or are they a waste of time? Also, bench blocks, yes or no? No, raw lifters have no business messing with blocks or boards. There's no business messing with that. Overloading by reducing range of motion does not improve size or strength. There's been plenty of studies on that. It just becomes an accessory. You know, the only reason you would do something like that would be the only reason you would throw in a dip or a floor press or anything else. You just need a novel training effect from an accessory movement for some reason, right? Just to get stronger. That's all it is. That's all you would get from it, is a slightly novel training effect, but it wouldn't have the best carryover. So no, I don't like blocks or boards ever for all lifters. I just don't feel there's good reason to do them. As far as pin presses, depends on how they're done. Yeah, I think pin presses can beat your shoulders and joints up. What pin presses allow you to do is, in some cases, they allow you to cheat and lift more weight. In other words, if you set a pin an inch or two off your chest, and you put yourself into a situation where you can adjust the leverage and use certain momentums out of your body to break it off the pins, you might find that you can lift more weight than you can normally. Depends on what you're doing. I don't recommend you do that. Where pin presses come into play is just like pin squats and everything else. They're a tool that you can utilize to find a better bar path. But you need to understand they're not necessarily always going to make you stronger. What they do is they teach you in some of the different sticking points to find the bar path that lets you lift the most weight, so that you can learn to shift to that bar path. In other words, finding the spot on the pins at different points where you can lift 20 or 30 more pounds by just shifting where the bar is drifted relative to your sternum in terms of up or down towards your head or feet. At that point will teach you the more efficient bar path that lets you have the best leverages, so that once you drive off the chest, you can explode all the way through. That's it. It's a training tool. They don't actually make you stronger. They won't give you nearly as much size and strength as a normal pause bench will off your chest. You need to understand what they're useful for. They're useful for training and learning bar path mechanics for you personally. Figure out at what point you need to start drifting further up towards your face, for example, on the bench press. How many inches off the chest? Where's your best leverage for that lets you follow through? That's all it is. It's a technique training tool. They do not make you stronger. All right, next question. Hi, Jason. Does keeping your fat intake low on a bulk make a big difference in the amount of body fat you gain? I'll only be on a small surplus, maybe 200-ish calories over maintenance per day. Thanks, and keep up the great work. Yes and no. In your case, I don't think you're going to see a noticeable difference. With a 200 calorie surplus, I seriously doubt you're going to see a measurable difference in body composition differences. When you start getting to larger surpluses, when your total fat intake is lower than the totality of your surplus, right? That's when you see less fat gain. But on a 200 calorie surplus, you're not going to eat less than 200 calories of fat. All right, you're not going to eat less than 200 calories of fat. At least I hope you realize you're probably not. That's going to be very difficult to do. It could be done, but it would be difficult. And even if you manage to get down to 180 calories of fat, oh no, that gives you 20 extra calories of wiggle room. Your scale isn't even accurate enough to get your diet within 20 calories, right? It's not accurate enough to do that. No scale on earth is able to do that. Yeah, that's going to come as a shock to some people. When you start getting into larger surpluses, 500, 600, 700 calories a day, and say you're only eating 300 fat calories a day, that's where you'll see slightly less fat gain on your bulk. It's going to be a little tiny amount. We're talking the difference of maybe over the course of a 12-week bulk. We're talking about a pound of fat difference. It's pretty minuscule in the grand scheme of things. So just keep that in consideration with all of this. All right, next question. I am a lifting enthusiast who is almost your age, but you're still older, who currently exceeds the 200, 300, 400, 500 strength achievements. What program would you recommend to maintain most of my power while working heavily to increase my cardio capacity? This is pretty straightforward. Just reduce your training volume and stay heavy. If you want to maintain all your strength, continue to work with the weights you're working with, reduce some of your volume, reduce a little bit of your back offset so that you can focus on cardio. All right, it's pretty straightforward. Now, here's your kicker. Make sure you don't lose muscle mass. How do we do that? Increasing your food intake. Because here's the thing. Cardio is used for two reasons. Some people use cardio as a weight loss tool or a weight management tool. Other people simply want the health benefits, conditioning, and endurance benefits. All right, here's where it gets interesting. The former requires you to create a calorie deficit. The latter does not. In other words, if your maintenance calories are 3,000 right now, and you add in 800 calories worth of cardio every day, you probably need to eat another 800 calories of food. because you're going to get better performance. In fact, all of your capacities are going to improve if you are eating enough food to fuel that training and to fuel the recovery from it. So in the case of your endurance work, your cardio and your strength are going to do better if you eat enough food that you do not lose weight while doing this. Now, if you're doing cardio because you want to lose weight, that isn't a viable option, right? So that's what you have to figure out there. But if your goal is to maintain 100% of your muscle and your strength while building your cardio capacity, you're just going to need to regulate your training volume to allow for the extra workload being done with the cardio at first. And you're going to need to increase your calories proportionately so that you do not lose much, if any, scale weight as a result of it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.